Late summer 1923, an estate outside Washington belonging to one of the richest women in America. A widow of 62 sits with crates of paper, government documents, private correspondence, letters in her husband's hand. She is going through them, and what she does not want to survive, she burns. She works at it over several nights, and by every account she is thorough. Thorough, the way a woman is when she has spent 30 years running the business side of a newspaper and knows exactly what a document can do to a man. Her husband has been dead a few weeks. He was the President of the United States. The corruption in his administration is just beginning to surface, and it is going to be enormous. Within 7 years, a book will accuse her of murdering him. Here is what America decided about Florence Harding, and it has held for a century. The nag, the shrew, the older wife who scolded a charming man into an early grave and possibly poisoned him for it. The Duchess, the one who burned the evidence. Nearly all of that is either wrong or upside down. She was the reason he was electable in the first place. She built the business that funded the career, and the fire was not a cover-up of her crime. It was the last act of a 30-year job she had performed better than anyone alive. But there was a box she could not reach. It sat in a house in Marion, Ohio, and it held 1,000 pages her husband had personally begged another woman to burn. A judge sealed it for exactly 50 years. It opened to the day in 2014. And 13 months after that, a cheek swab finished what the paper started. Start in Marion. Florence Mabel Kling was born in August 1860 above her father's store in Marion, Ohio, and her father was the reason for everything that followed. Amos Kling became the wealthiest man in the county, store, banking, real estate, and he raised his eldest child more like a son than a daughter. She learned the books. She understood a ledger before she understood much else. He was a hard, controlling, socially ambitious man, and she inherited the hardness and spent her life in a running war with him. She meant to be a concert pianist. She went to the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. At 19 she eloped instead, with a local young man named Henry DeWolf, known as Pete. They married in Columbus in January 1880. A son, Marshall, was born within months. DeWolf drank, could not hold work, and eventually abandoned them both. She was divorced by 1886. Now, hold the position she was in, because it is the foundation of the entire story. She is in her mid-20s. She is a divorced woman with a small child in a small Ohio town in the 1880s, which in that time and place is close to social ruin. Her father, who never approved of the marriage, has essentially taken over the raising of her son. She supports herself giving piano lessons to the children of families she used to be equal to. Everything Florence Harding later became, the vigilance, the control of money, the refusal ever again to be dependent on a man's goodwill, was assembled in those years. She had already been ruined once, quietly, at 25. She was not going to permit it twice. She met Warren Gamaliel Harding in Marion. He was 5 years younger. He had arrived as a teenager, showed an aptitude for newspapers, and scraped together the money to buy a failing local sheet called the Daily Star. He was, by everyone's account, including his own, spectacularly likable, handsome in a way people commented on for the rest of his life, convivial, uncontentious, good at rooms. He was also not especially driven, and he was, in the phrase of one of his own biographers, a man who found it very hard to say no to anybody about anything. Amos Kling went to war over it. He spread ugly rumours about the Harding family's ancestry, a racial slander that trailed Harding for the rest of his career and was used against him in the 1920 presidential campaign. He instructed Marion businesses to stay away from the Star. Harding eventually warned him to his face that he would beat him if it did not stop. Kling did not attend the wedding and did not speak to his daughter for years. They married on the 8th of July, 1891, in a Queen Anne house on Mount Vernon Avenue that they had designed together, and it stayed their home for the rest of both their lives. There were no children. He called her the Duchess. The nickname came from a newspaper serial, and it was about a woman who kept a very close eye on the Duke and on the money, which tells you the marriage's shape from the beginning. Then she went to work, and this is the part that gets left out. Florence Harding took over the circulation department of the Marion Star and ran it for roughly 14 years. She managed the newsboys personally. There are multiple accounts of her spanking one when she judged it necessary, which is either appalling or characteristic, depending on your view of 1890s labour relations. A friend's summary was that no pennies escaped her. Under her management, the paper became genuinely profitable, and that profit is the whole political career. A small-town editor with a solvent newspaper and a wife running the business side has the one thing an aspiring Ohio politician needs, which is time. Time to make speeches, work conventions, cultivate the state party, and be liked in the right rooms. Historians of this marriage do not much disagree about it. The consensus is that she made him, and that without her he would very likely have remained a pleasant, popular newspaperman in Marion, Ohio, and died unremembered. Her own line about it is the one that gets quoted, and it is worth hearing exactly. She said she had only one real hobby, and it was her husband. In August 1905, Warren Harding, Bob by then Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, began an affair with Carrie Fulton Phillips. The Phillipses were friends. Jim Phillips ran a dry goods store in Marion. The two couples were close enough that they toured Europe together. And in 1904, the Phillipses' young son had died, and in the wreckage of that, the two of them found each other. It went on for roughly 15 years through his term in the Ohio governor's office, and all 6 years of his United States Senate seat. And it produced something extraordinary. He wrote to her constantly, long letters, some of them 40 pages. The Library of Congress collection runs to around 1,000 pages, and what is in them is not a politician being careful. It is a man in his 40s writing with total abandon to a woman he plainly adored. On Christmas Eve, 1910, he tells her he loves her more than all the world and has no hope of reward on earth or hereafter so precious as her embrace. He also, at one point, worked out what he had done. In January 1913, he wrote to her about the letters themselves and told her to have a fire and chuck them. He said they were too flammable to keep. She did not. And it went further than romance, which is why the collection matters to historians rather than just a gossip. Carrie Phillips had lived in Germany and had strong German sympathies, and as America moved toward war, she and Harding argued about it in writing. A sitting United States Senator setting out his private reasoning on the war vote to a woman who wanted him to vote the other way. In one letter, he tells her she is unthinking and unfair to accuse him of playing politics, and points out that he represents a state with hundreds of thousands of German Republicans, and that nobody knows better than he does that he seals his political fate by displeasing them. That is a man handing his own political calculation in his own hand to someone whose loyalties are pulling against his country's. It is why some later writers have wondered whether she was more dangerous than a mistress. It is also why the 1920 campaign was, briefly, in serious trouble. Carrie Phillips knew what she had. It has been widely reported that the Republican Party arranged a payment and a long foreign trip to keep her quiet through the election. The details of that arrangement rest on later accounts rather than a surviving contract, so hold it loosely. But the Ye campaign's fear of her is not in doubt, and there was a second woman. Nan Britton was born in Marion in 1896. She was 31 years younger than Florence, and had been infatuated with Harding since she was a schoolgirl. Her father was the Harding family's doctor. The relationship began around 1917, when Harding was a senator and she was in her early 20s. On the 22nd of October, 1919, she gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth Ann. In 1927, 4 years after Harding's death, broke and unable to get support for the child, Nan Britton published a book called The President's Daughter. It's generally considered the first great American political kiss and tell. It sold enormously, and it described the affair in detail, including encounters in the White House itself. The response destroyed her. Harding's supporters in Marion produced a pamphlet attacking her. The family's position was that Harding had been left sterile by mumps and could not have fathered anyone. She was called a liar, a fantasist, and a gold digger in print for decades. She sued for defamation and won, and the jury awarded her nothing. She lived until 1991. She was called a liar for 64 years. Remember that. What did Florence know? About Carrie, almost certainly a great deal. The two couples were intimate friends for years, and the affair ran for 15. Her biographers record that she considered divorce more than once, and did not go through with it. She had reasons. Her health was bad. Chronic kidney disease that nearly killed her in 1905, and again in 1922. And she had already been a divorced woman once in Marion, Ohio, and knew precisely what that cost. But the simpler reading is the one the record supports best. She had built something, and she was not going to walk away from it. In 1920, her husband was nominated for president, and she worked the campaign as hard as she had ever worked the star. The Front Porch campaign ran out of their own house in Marion, and she was in it every day. As First Lady, she was the most visible in decades. She held press conferences, she spoke publicly for women's suffrage, for veterans' care, for humane treatment of animals. She reviewed her husband's speeches and advised on political appointments. She served alcohol at White House card parties during Prohibition, which was illegal and which she did anyway. And she was popular, genuinely widely popular, in a way that the later caricature erased completely. On the 2nd of August 1923, on a Western tour, Warren Harding died in a San Francisco hotel room. He had been unwell for days. His physician, Charles Sawyer, a homeopath the Hardings had brought from Marion and given a general's commission, had been treating him with stimulants and purgatives for what appears in retrospect to have been advanced heart disease. Modern assessments generally hold that the treatment made it worse. Florence refused an autopsy. That refusal, and what she did next, is the reason America spent a century believing she was a murderer. Because what she did next was the fire. She brought her husband's body home to Marion, buried him, went back to Washington, moved into the estate of her friend Evelyn Walsh McLean with crates of paper, and burned it over several nights. Understand her position when she did it. The Teapot Dome scandal was surfacing. Her husband's interior secretary had taken bribes for oil leases. His attorney general's circle was under investigation. Harding himself was not personally implicated in Teapot Dome. That has held up. But the men around him were, and the country was about to spend years deciding what he had known. She was doing the last version of the job she had done for 30 years. She was protecting the product. Then, in 1930, a man named Gaston Means published a book called The Strange Death of President Harding, and it said Florence Harding had poisoned her husband. So let's deal with the witness. Gaston Means was a professional fraudster. He had been installed at the Bureau of Investigation, the FBI's predecessor, by Harding's Attorney General, and his career was a sequence of confidence schemes. He died in a federal prison in 1938. His co-author on the book, Mae Dixon Thacker, subsequently went public to say she had been deceived in the writing of it and cheated of her royalties. There was never any evidence for the claim, and there could not be because there had been no autopsy. The book is discredited. It has been discredited for the better part of 90 years. And it worked anyway. It ran for generations. It turns up in popular history to this day. And it is a large part of why most Americans who know anything about Florence Harding know that. Here is the bitter part, and it is the shape of her whole life. The murder story survived because of what she did to protect him. No autopsy plus a bonfire is, to a suspicious public, a confession. Every precaution she took to save her husband's name became, within 7 years, the evidence against her. She spent 30 years managing his reputation, and in the end, the only thing she failed to manage was her own. She died on the 21st of November, 1924, of kidney failure, 15 months after him. So here is the ledger, and this one has 2 entries. and neither of them is paper she could have reached. Entry 1. The box in Marion. Carrie Phillips kept the letters, all of them. For roughly 40 years they sat in a box in her house, in Marion, Ohio, unseen. She died in 1960. A court-appointed lawyer going through her property found them, and in 1963 made them available to a historian named Francis Russell, who was writing a Harding biography. Harding's nephew, Dr. George Harding, sued. On the 29th of July, 1964, an Ohio probate judge sealed the papers while the court worked out who owned them. What followed was years of litigation over the letters of a president who had been dead for 4 decades. And, in the middle of it, an Ohio archivist named Kenneth Duckett, convinced the documents had to be preserved, secretly microfilmed the collection. There is an account of him having a physical altercation at the copier when an official tried to stop him. He hid the copies in different places around the country. Francis Russell never got to quote a word. He published his biography in 1968 with rows of hyphens running across the page where Harding's sentences should have been. Eventually, George Harding bought the letters outright from Carrie Phillips's heirs, and in 1972 he gave them to the Library of Congress, on the condition that they stay closed until the 29th of July, 2014. 50 years to the day from the moment the judge first shut them. They went into a vault in the manuscript division and stayed there for 42 years. On the 29th of July, 2014, the restriction expired. The library digitized the whole collection and put it online, and anyone with an internet connection could read 1,000 pages of a president's private handwriting. The man who wrote them had asked her to burn them. His wife had burned everything within her reach. A judge had sealed them for half a century, and they are now, permanently, the most intimate surviving record of any American president's inner life. Entry 2. The child. In August 2015, 13 months after the letters opened, AncestryDNA published the result of a genetic study. It had been instigated by Harding's own descendants. Dr. Peter Harding, a grandnephew of the president, had read the historical work on the affair, become convinced he probably had a cousin he had never met, and gone looking. He and his cousin Abigail submitted samples. So did James Blessing, Nan Britton's grandson, son of Elizabeth Ann. The result showed Peter Harding and James Blessing to be second cousins, which meant Elizabeth Ann Blessing was Warren Harding's daughter and his only child. The finding was reported as 99.9% certain. Nan Britton had told the truth in 1927. She was called a liar until 1991, when she died at 94. Her daughter died in 2005, having shown no interest in being tested. Neither of them lived to see it. The mumps story, which the family had used to destroy her, was simply false. So, go back to the fire. Florence Harding did the job properly. She was a professional. She had spent 14 years around a newspaper, deciding what got printed and what did not. And when it came to her husband's papers, she was efficient and unsentimental, and she got most of it. What defeated her was not a rival or an investigator. It was 2 things she had no authority over whatsoever. One was another woman's box in a house 4 streets from her own, holding the letters her husband had begged that woman to destroy, protected in the end by the very lawsuit his family brought to suppress them, because that lawsuit put them in a federal vault instead of a fireplace. The other was a child she was never told about, whose grandson walked into a laboratory 96 years later and answered the question with his own blood. Florence Harding understood paper better than almost anyone of her generation. That was the blind spot. She thought the record was the paper. It wasn't. It was in a box another woman refused to burn, and in the body of a girl born in a rented room in New Jersey in October 1919, whose mother spent the rest of her life being called a liar for saying so.